Elias Wren never believed in fairy tales. He was a soldier, not a dreamer. But here he was, standing in front of a glowing temple, deep in the alien forests of Valari Prime. He wore a formal jacket with a red sash. Behind him stood two alien guards, their golden armor shining under the twin suns. His orders were clear: marry the youngest Valari princess, and no questions. No refusal. The marriage was part of the new peace treaty between Earth and the Valari Dominion, signed after years of war. Elias had served in that war. He had lost friends, his right leg, and almost his life. Now, instead of honor, he was being rewarded with marriage. Not to a human, not to someone he knew, but to Princess Lyra, the blind youngest daughter of the Valari Emperor. It felt like exile. The temple doors opened with a low hum. Inside, the air was cool and filled with the scent of glowing blue flowers. Light streamed through crystal windows. A small group of Valari nobles stood in silence, their faces unreadable. At the front stood Lyra. She was shorter than most Valari, dressed in silver robes. Her skin was a pale lavender, and her long dark hair was tied with simple crystal bands. Her eyes clouded, milky white, did not move. She didn't turn to look at Elias when he entered. She just stood still, hands folded, calm like a statue. Elias stepped beside her. No words, no smiles. A priest read the bonding oath in two languages, Valari and English. The ceremony was quick, cold, and empty. The only part that truly stung was when the priest said, "As husband and protector, you will honor the sacred bond." Honor. Elias had lost enough in this war to know how little that word meant now. When it was over, the princess finally spoke. Her voice was soft, careful. "You may call me Lyra." "And I'm Elias," he replied, unsure of what else to say. She nodded once. "We will travel now." Their home was not a palace. It was a small villa in the forest, made from living wood shaped by ancient Valari tech. Vines moved like snakes, adjusting the structure as needed. A waterfall ran near the back, and strange birds sang through the day. Elias wasn't given any guards. No staff, just him and the alien woman, who was now his wife. Inside, it was quiet. Lyra moved without help, her hands trailing lightly along the curved walls. She seemed to know the place better than him. "This house is grown from a seed temple," she said one evening as she poured tea for them both. "It listens. To us, to me," she replied simply. Elias didn't ask more. He felt like a stranger in his own life now. He tried to talk with her during meals, but Lyra didn't say much. She ate little. She spent most of her time sitting near the open wall that faced the forest, listening to the wind and birds. One day, Elias asked, "Do you miss the palace?" "I was never truly welcome there." "Why?" She tilted her head slightly. "Because I hear things I should not." Elias frowned, like voices. She smiled faintly. Not voices. Vibrations. Energy. Machines. Truth. He didn't understand. He was trained for war, not riddles. As days passed, Elias began to notice small things. Lyra always knew when it was about to rain before the clouds appeared. She always avoided stepping on any insect, even the tiny ones. One night, she stopped him before he entered a room. "Do not go in.
Ow.
The vine above the door is weak." A second later, it snapped and fell. He asked her how she knew. She said, "I listen." He started to believe she wasn't just blind. She was something else. Sensitive. Connected. One afternoon, while repairing an old tool near the waterfall, Elias noticed a humming sound from underground. He placed his ear to the soil. It pulsed. "Lyra," he called. "Is there something under us?" She came out slowly, barefoot on the mossy ground, her head tilted again, as if she were listening to something he couldn't hear. "Yes," she said softly, "there is something old. Something asleep." "What is it? I don't know, but I feel it now. It is waking." Elias didn't like the sound of that. That night, rain poured hard. Thunder cracked across the skies. Elias couldn't sleep. The hum from underground had grown louder. He sat near the window, watching water run down the glowing vines. Suddenly, he heard something else: footsteps. Not his. Not Lyra's. He grabbed his old service knife and stepped out into the hall. "Lyra," he called. She appeared from the dark, her face pale in the lightning flash. She was barefoot, her robe soaked at the bottom. "They're watching us," she whispered. "You need to trust me now." Elias froze. "Who?" "No." But she grabbed his hand, her touch warm and firm. She pulled him toward the back of the house. The vines opened like a living gate. They ran through the rain, deeper into the forest. He didn't ask questions. Her face was calm, but serious. She wasn't afraid. That scared Elias more than anything. After 20 minutes, they reached an old stone platform hidden under thick moss. Lyra placed her hand on a crystal embedded in the stone. A light flared deep blue. The ground shook. A circular door opened in the earth, releasing steam and golden light from below. "What is this?" Elias asked. She turned to him, rain running down her cheeks. "You were not told the full truth about me, about this planet, about why we were married." He stared into the hole, and for the first time he felt something bigger than war, bigger than politics. "Then tell me now," he said. Lyra stepped forward, her voice calm like always. "I wasn't given to you as a gift, Elias. I was sent to protect you." Elias stared at the open door in the ground. A soft golden light came from below. The air was warm and filled with a strange smell like old metal and something ancient waking up. Princess Lyra stood at the edge of the door, her blind eyes calm, but focused. Rain still poured around them, but the platform was dry now, protected by some unseen force. Elias asked, "Protect me from what?" Lyra didn't answer right away. Instead, she stepped into the underground chamber. Elias followed, still holding his knife, though he didn't know what he'd use it for. They walked down a smooth path of silver stone, lit by faint glowing lines that followed their steps. The walls were covered in strange symbols Elias didn't recognize. "Where are we?" he asked. "This place is older than the Valari Empire," Lyra replied. "It was built by a race that vanished before my people even walked this planet." She touched a panel on the wall. A door opened with a hiss. Inside was a large round room. In the center floated a crystal pale blue and pulsing like a heartbeat. Elias stepped closer, then stopped. His skin tingled. "This is why I was kept away from the palace," Lyra said, "because I can hear these machines. I can feel their thoughts." Elias frowned. "You can talk to it? Not with words? With presence? With rhythm?" She reached toward the crystal, and as her fingers neared it, the glow brightened. Elias took a step back. Lyra spoke again, her voice quiet. "The Valari feared this technology. They call it forbidden, dangerous. But it's not evil. It's only old and awake." He watched as the crystal pulsed in time with her heartbeat. "Why show me this now?" Lyra turned to him. "Because they will come for us. The rebels. The ones who want war with Earth again. And they know what I am." They spent the night in the underground chamber. Elias stayed awake, watching shadows on the walls. Lyra slept sitting, her hands folded over her lap. Even in sleep, she looked peaceful. In the morning, the storm was gone. The sunlight filtered through the trees as they walked back to their forest home. "I sent a signal," Lyra said. "To who?" "To someone I trust, an old friend of my mother's. She was a seer, like me, before she vanished." Elias rubbed the back of his neck. "This just keeps getting stranger." Lyra smiled a little. "You expected a quiet marriage?" He laughed softly. "I expected boredom, not glowing caves and hidden prophecies." Over the next few days, Elias noticed changes in Lyra. She moved faster now. Her steps were sure. The forest seemed to open for her branches, shifting out of the way, birds following her silently. She no longer stayed inside during the day. Instead, she walked the forest paths with her head held high. She touched trees, stones, and flowers, listening to something only she could hear. Elias followed her everywhere. Sometimes he asked questions. Sometimes he just stayed quiet and watched her. He was beginning to admire her not just as someone strange and powerful, but as someone kind, calm, and unafraid of being different. One night, as they ate beside the stream near the house, Elias asked, "Why did they choose me?" Lyra looked up. "You were loyal, brave, but not famous. You had no power, no strong connections. You were safe." Elias raised an eyebrow. "Safe." "They thought you would not question things," she said gently, "that you would accept the marriage and disappear. But I didn't." "No," she said. "You stayed. You watched. You listened." Elias looked down at his food. "Maybe I was just curious." She smiled. "That's what makes you dangerous to them." Later that week, while fixing part of the roof, Elias spotted movement near the trees. He froze. Shadows moved fast. Fast for any animal. He jumped down and ran inside. "Lyra, we've got company." She was already standing, her hand on the wooden wall. "They're here," she said. "I feel them." Elias grabbed his old rifle from the storage room. He checked the charge. Full. "How many?" "4. Maybe 5. Not soldiers. Assassins." The lights in the house dimmed. Vines on the wall curled inward like they were afraid. "Get to the back," Elias said. "I'll hold them." "No," Lyra interrupted. "Fight with me." The attack came fast. 3 Valerie figures in black cloaks crashed through the outer wall using shock blades. Elias fired, hitting one in the leg. The alien screamed and fell. The others moved like shadows, silent. Deadly. But before they could reach him, the entire house pulsed with a strange energy. The walls shimmered. Roots burst from the ground, wrapping around the attackers like snakes. Lyra stood in the center of the room, eyes glowing faint blue. She was humming, low and deep. The attackers froze, caught in the vines. The air was thick. With energy, then it stopped. The attackers collapsed. Elias lowered his rifle. His heart pounded. "What? ... What did you just do?" "I used the song of the forest," she said softly. "The old ways, the living tech. You've done this before? Once? Long ago?" "But I was afraid then." He looked at her, Ellie. Looked. She was no longer just the quiet blind girl from the temple. She was something more, something powerful. They tied the surviving attacker and waited for dawn. When the sun rose, Lyra questioned him. The assassin refused to speak, so she touched his forehead and hummed again. A few seconds passed. Then he whispered, "The council ordered it. They fear you'll awaken the Star Core. They fear you'll tell the human the truth." "What truth?" Elias asked. Lyra stood still, her hands shaking slightly. "Earth's destruction was part of a plan." Elias stared. "What plan?" The assassin smiled weakly. "A prophecy. One that says Earth will burn, unless the seer chooses to protect it." They let the assassin go with a warning. "If you come again," Elias told him, "you won't leave." He limped away into the forest. Lyra turned to Elias. "There's more I need to show you, but not here." "Where?" "To the mountain temple. It holds the oldest machine. It's the one that knows the future." Elias didn't even hesitate. "Let's go." Before they left, Lyra stood at the heart of the house and whispered something in the Valari tongue. The walls pulsed once, then became still. "What did you say?" Elias asked. She turned to him with a small smile. "I told the house to sleep. It has done well." They packed supplies, took light weapons, started their journey to the mountains. As they walked side by side, Elias asked, "Why are you really doing this?" She didn't answer for a moment. Then she said, "Because I believe in peace. Because I believe in you." He looked at her. "Even though I was forced to marry you?" "Yes," she said. "Because now I choose to stay." The sky over Valari Prime was red with sunset as Elias and Lyra walked along the narrow forest trail. The ground beneath them glowed faintly, following Lyra's steps. The trees around them whispered in the wind, almost like they were watching. Journey to the mountain temple was quiet at first. Elias kept glancing at Lyra. Since the attack, something had changed in her. She walked straighter, her blind eyes glowing faint blue at times. She didn't need help. In fact, it seemed like the forest was guiding her. "How far is the temple?" Elias asked, brushing aside a low-hanging branch. 3 days on foot." Lyra answered, "We cannot take any ships. The skies are being watched." "By who?" "The rebels." "No," she said, her voice soft but firm. "By the council." Elias stopped walking. "The High Council. But they agreed to peace with Earth." "They agreed in public," she said. "But in secret, some want war again. They believe Earth is a threat." Elias narrowed his eyes. "So they arranged our marriage to get rid of you and keep me distracted." Lyra nodded. "They never expected us to trust each other." Elias gave a small, bitter laugh. "They expected me to sit in a quiet house and forget everything I fought for." "You didn't," Lyra said simply. "That's why they're afraid." That night they camped near a quiet stream. Stars above were strange and beautiful, far brighter than those back on Earth. Elias sat by the fire, holding his old knife. He remembered his time as a soldier, his friends, the battles, the fear. He had seen war. He had bled for Earth, and now he was part of something far more complicated than he ever expected. Lyra sat across from him, her hands folded in her lap. She didn't speak for a long time. Then she said, "I wasn't always this calm." Looked up. "No?" She shook her head. "When I was a child, I screamed every time I heard the echoes of the old machines. They scared me. My father locked me away, thinking I was broken." Elias frowned. "He locked you up? That's not what a father should do." "He didn't understand me," she said. "None of them did, except for my nursemaid. She taught me to listen instead of fear." "Is she still alive?" "No," Lyra said quietly. "Vanished one day. I think she was taken by the same people who want me gone." Elias felt a sudden anger. He stood and walked toward the stream, looking at his reflection. "You don't deserve this," he said. "Any of it." "I survived it," she replied, "because I knew one day someone would believe in me." He turned to look at her, and he knew she meant him. The next day they reached a rocky path that led upward. The air grew cooler, the trees became thinner. Strange crystals jutted from the earth, glowing with soft blue light. Suddenly, Lyra stopped. Elias drew his rifle. "What is it?" She pointed ahead. "There's someone waiting." Elias crouched and scanned the rocks. A figure stepped out. A tall Veilari woman, dressed in silver robes. Her eyes glowed white, and her hair shimmered like starlight. "Lyra," the woman said with a soft smile. "You've grown." Lyra stepped forward. "Mother Seer, I knew you would come." Elias stood beside her alert. The woman bowed slightly. "I am Ylira. Served the queen, your mother, before she died." Lyra's face softened. "Then I trust you." Lyra turned to Elias. "And you must be the human husband." "The soldier," Elias Rennie said. Lyra nodded. "We have much to discuss." "Come, the temple is near." They reached the temple. By sunset, it was carved into the side of the mountain, a smooth stone entrance guarded by large crystal statues. The door opened on its own when Lyra touched it. Inside, the air was cold and quiet. The halls were filled with carving stories of the ancient race that came before both humans and Veilari, their machines, their cities, their fall. Ylira led them into a round chamber at the center of the temple. There, floating in the middle, was a black cube, humming with slow, deep energy. Elias stepped forward. "What is it?" "At the core," Ylira said. "It holds the knowledge of the ancients, the future." Lyra walked to it and placed both hands on the cube. A pulse of energy spread through the room. Her eyes closed. Her breathing slowed. Elias moved forward, worried, but Ylira held him back. "She is strong," the older woman said. "Let her see." Lyra stood still for a long time. Then slowly she opened her eyes. "They planned to attack Earth." "She," whispered Dot. Elias froze. "Who?" "The council," Lyra said. "They will use false evidence. It will blame the humans for a Veilari ship explosion. It will begin a new war." Elias felt rage in his chest. "We have to stop them." "There's more," Lyra said. They plan to remove the Emperor too. They want full control. They want me dead, and you captured. Ylira spoke, her voice grave. Then we must act quickly. That night, the three of them made a plan. Ylira would contact the Emperor in secret. She had an old, secure channel. But it would take 2 days for the message to reach him. Elias and Lyra would return to the forest villa, where the ancient signal node still worked. It could send a warning to the Earth Federation. If both sides received proof in time, war could be avoided, but it was a risk. If they were caught, there would be no second chance. Before sleeping, Elias and Lyra sat outside the temple, watching the stars. You don't have to do this, Elias said. You can run, hide. You've already risked so much. Lyra turned. To him, I don't want to run anymore. He looked into her pale eyes. Why? Because I finally have someone who sees me, she said softly. And I will not lose that. Elias reached out and gently took her hand, and for the first time since their forced wedding, it felt real. They left the temple at dawn. The journey back was silent and tense. Every shadow felt dangerous. Every noise made Elias grip his rifle tighter. They were only half a day from the villa when they were ambushed. 3. The Lari soldiers dropped from the trees. They were not rebels. Their armor was marked with the royal crest. Lyra stepped forward. Why are the Emperor's guards here? One of them raised his weapon. By order of the council, you are to return to the capital for questioning. Elias aimed his rifle. We're not going anywhere. Soldiers raised their weapons. But before a shot was fired, something crashed into the forest behind them. A massive creature, one of the ancient guardians, rose from the shadows. Its body covered in vines and crystal armor. It roared. The soldiers fled in panic. Lyra didn't move. She simply raised her hand. The guardian bowed its head and walked away. Elias stared at her in awe. You called it? I asked for help, she said, and it answered. They reached the villa by nightfall. The house welcomed them, its walls opening, its lights glowing softly. Elias rushed to the signal room and activated the ancient node. The machine groaned to life. He sent the warning to Earth. Everything they had learned, everything they had seen. Then he turned to Lyra. It's done. She stood at the door, her hands glowing faint blue. A shadow moved behind her. Elias reached for his weapon too late. A blade appeared from the dark.
Pressed to Lyra's
neck. A voice growled. You should have stayed hidden, princess. The blade pressed against Lyra's neck didn't shake. The hand that held it belonged to a Valerie assassin, tall, masked, and dressed in black armor. Step away, the assassin ordered Elias, or she dies. Elias froze. His rifle was just a few steps away, leaning against the wall. Too far. One wrong move, and don't move, Lyra said calmly, her voice steady. Elias raised his hands. Let her go. She's no threat to you. She's a threat to everyone, the assassin growled. She's seen the core. She knows the plan. Lyra stood still, the blade at her throat. Her breath was slow. Elias could see her lips moving. Slightly, but not in words, in a hum, soft and deep. The vines on the ceiling above the assassin stirred. Elias saw it. So did the assassin. Too late. The vines dropped like snakes, wrapping around the attacker's arm and yanking him backward. The blade flew from his hand. Elias lunged. He tackled the attacker, punching hard. Once, twice. The mask cracked. Lyra raised her hand and hummed louder. The walls of the house lit up. The ground beneath the assassin shifted. Roots burst through the floor and pulled him down. In seconds, he was trapped, arms spread, breathing hard. Elias stood over him. You picked the wrong house. The assassin spat. It won't matter. The council has already sent the fleet. Earth will burn in 7 days. Lyra didn't speak for a long time. She sat near the signal panel, fingers curled around her lap. Her eyes were dim again, like she had used too much energy. Elias checked the node. The message was sent, he said. But we don't know if Earth got it in time. They must have, Lyra whispered. They have to. Elias sat beside her. You okay? I will be. But this is bigger than I thought. They're moving faster. We'll stop them. Lyra turned to him. You still want to stay, even now? He didn't hesitate. Yes. She reached out, fingers brushing his hand. You're not like the others. Neither are you, he said. They sat in silence, fingers lightly touching. The soft hum of the node filling the room. Later that night, Lyra sat near the garden, facing the stars. Elias brought her a warm drink made from local herbs. She held the cup but didn't drink. I used to dream of this, she said. Of war? No. She smiled gently. Of being seen, heard, not locked away like a secret. Elias sat beside her. You were more than a secret. You were a threat to their lives. My father, the Emperor. He never visited me once after I turned 10. Elias didn't know what to say, so he listened. I used to ask the stars if someone would come, someone who wouldn't be afraid of me. Did the stars answer? She nodded slowly. They sent a human, a wounded soldier, one who wasn't afraid of strange things. Elias looked at her with a mix of pride and pain. You're not strange, he said. You're the strongest person I've ever met. Lyra's message arrived. Lyra read it aloud. Emperor received proof, dividing the council. Some loyal, some traitors. He comes in secret. 2 days. Elias smiled. That's something. But Lyra didn't look happy. He'll bring loyal guards. The traitors will try to kill him before he arrives. Elias stood. Then we meet him halfway. We protect him. Lyra stood too. We'll need help. They left the villa and traveled to the Crystal Lake, where the last guardian creature lived, one stronger than the others. It was said to protect only those who spoke with pure hearts. Lyra stepped to the water's edge and sang softly. The lake shimmered. A large shape rose from the water, tall, glowing, shaped like a mix of bird and beast. Its eyes locked on Lyra. Elias gripped his rifle, but the guardian bowed. Lyra smiled. It will help us. 2 days later, the Emperor's ship entered the forest. It was small, quiet, and well hidden. But so were the assassins. Elias spotted them first, crawling across the trees like spiders. He fired. The forest echoed. The battle began. Lyra stood in the center of the path, her arms out, her voice ringing through the air. Energy surged from her hands. Vines and roots twisted like blades, striking the assassins down. The guardian creature dove from the skies, knocking enemies aside like toys. Elias fought close, fast, focused. He moved like a true soldier, his body protecting Lyra's at every turn. The Emperor's guards joined them, taking control of the field. When it was over, 10 assassins lay defeated. The Emperor stepped from his ship. He was tall, proud, dressed in silver armor. His face was tired, but when he saw Lyra, his eyes softened. Daughter, he said quietly. Lyra didn't bow. She simply said, it's time you listened. That night, in the safety of the mountain camp, Lyra showed her father everything: the Core's truth, the Council's betrayal, the plan to destroy Earth. The Emperor listened in silence. When she finished, he nodded slowly. I was blind. She said, you were scared, like they all were. And you? He asked. I was ready, she said. So I had someone who believed in me. She looked at Elias. The Emperor looked too. Then he smiled slightly. I see. Before dawn, the Emperor called a meeting with the loyal council members. He used Lyra's recordings and Elias's Earth communication as proof. By sunrise, the traitors were named. Some ran. Some were arrested. War was stopped. Peace stood once again, but only because of one human soldier and one blind alien princess. Back at the forest villa, days later, Elias sat on the front steps. Watching Lyra walk barefoot through the grass, she moved with such peace now. She turned to him. You stayed? Of course, he smiled. She walked over and sat beside him. I don't know what comes next, she said. Neither do I, Elias replied. But I know where I want to be. She reached out her hand. He took it. Their bond had started as a political game. But now, it was something real, something true. The stars over Valerie Prime were quiet again. No warships. No council assassins. No chaos. Just peace. Elias sat on the edge of the villa's wooden deck, his boots resting in the soft moss below. The forest sang with gentle sounds, birds flowing, water, and the faint hum of the living house. It had been 3 weeks since the attack at the Emperor's Landing. 3 weeks since war was stopped. 3 weeks since. Lyra chose to stand, not just as a seer but as someone who mattered. Elias didn't wear a soldier's uniform anymore. He wore simple forest robes, same as the locals. He no longer felt like an outsider. The forest felt like home now, and so did she. He turned as soft footsteps approached. Lyra walked toward him slowly, a basket of glowing berries in her arms. Her bare feet made no sound on the smooth wood. Her eyes, still blind, glowed faintly with the energy that now lived in her. But her smile, gentle and warm, was what always stopped his heart. "You didn't eat?" she said, placing the basket beside him. "I was thinking." She sat next to him, folding her legs carefully. "Still worried about Earth?" Elias nodded. "I keep checking the signal tower. Still no reply. They received the message. That's what matters. I just want to know they're safe." Lyra placed a soft hand on his. "You did everything you could. You protected them, and me." He looked at her. "I didn't know I could care so much. For this place, for you." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "You weren't meant to be a weapon, Elias. You were meant to be a guide, a protector, a choice." The next day, a message came. A soft blue light blinked on the crystal node. Elias rushed to it. The message was short, just a few lines. "FROM, Earth Federation Command 2. Elias Wren message received. Attack prevented. Truce confirmed. Awaiting your return. Soldier.Elias read it 3 times. Then he leaned back and sighed. "They're safe," he told Lyra. "Earth is safe." She smiled. "Then your mission is complete." But something in her voice trembled. That night, Elias packed his old bag, his rifle, his badge, his Earth jacket. Lyra helped him quietly, folding each item with care. But she didn't speak. Finally, Elias broke the silence. "You want me to go, don't you?" She looked at him. "I want you to choose, not be forced again." He stopped packing. "I didn't fall in love with a mission, Lyra," he said. "I fell in love with you." She turned away, hiding her face. "Then why pack your things?" "Because if I go, I want to return the right way, as a free man, not a tool." She turned back to him, her blind eyes full of emotion. "And if they ask you to never return?" He stepped close and held her hands. "Then I'll say no." 2 days later, Elias stood at the edge of the small landing pad deep in the forest. A transport pod waited a gift from the Emperor, fully charged and programmed to take him to Earth's outpost on the edge of the system. Lyra stood beside him. They said nothing for a long time. Then Lyra spoke. "I was sent to you as a tool." "Two, you know?" "I know," Elias said softly. "But I stayed," she continued, "because I saw something in you. Something more than orders." He touched her cheek. "And I saw something in you. More than prophecy." The pod's doors opened with a hiss. Elias turned away from them. "I'll go. I'll make sure Earth remembers what happened here. That you saved them. Not just me." Lyra nodded. He paused, then added, "And when I return," she looked up, "I want it to be as your real husband. Not because of a treaty. Not because of a war." She smiled, "Then come back." The journey to the outpost was quiet. Elias traveled alone. No guards, no orders. Just time to think. He thought about the war. About the wounds. About the life he had before the marriage. It felt distant, now like a story from someone else's life. When he landed at Earth's border station, the officers greeted him with surprise. Most thought he had died months ago, but he showed them the recordings. The proof, the truth. They listened, they learned. And for the first time, they understood the depth of what had been stopped. A war that would have ended Earth. Saved. By an alien princess no one believed in? Elias stayed on Earth for 6 weeks. He walked the cities, spoke in meetings, told the story of the Valari betrayal, but also the story of Lyra, of how she saw the future, of how she risked everything to protect not only her people but his. Some believed him. Some didn't. But the most important people did. The Federation Council removed the last war orders. They declared peace with the Valari permanent, and then gave Elias a choice: stay or return. He didn't even pause. "I'm going home," he said. Lyra was in the garden when the sky cracked with the sound of a returning pod. She looked up slowly, her heart racing. The forest whispered. She stood. Elias stepped out of the ship in the same jacket he wore on their wedding day. Lyra didn't move. He walked straight to her, stood before her. "I'm not here because of duty," he said. She reached out and touched his face. "Then why are you here?" "Because I missed your voice, your laugh, the way you listen to the stars, the way you hold my hand like it's the most natural thing in the world." Her smile grew. He held up a small wooden ring, one he carved. "During his stay on Earth, this time I'm asking you. Not for a treaty, not for the Empire, just for me." "Then ask," she whispered. Elias dropped to one knee. Lyra of Valari. She knelt beside him, took his hand, and placed the ring on her finger. "Yes," she said, "but this time I choose you." That night, the forest lit up with soft lights. No grand palace, no royal court, just a quiet bond between two hearts. The human soldier who once hated the war, and an alien princess once locked in silence. Now side by side, not as a weapon and a protector, but as husband and wife. Real, free, true.